season that I wanted to quit until this one, or I never really wanted to quit pastoring people. This was the season that about killed me.
Wow.
Just was so tragic. And for me, it started with the death of my dad. I was very loved by my father. Every dream I had, he encouraged or funded, and I was told every day that I was loved. And I'm aware of what a gift that is. My dad, he fell and hit his head and had a brain bleed. So, so I'm trying to grieve the loss of my dad and just trying to, deal with all the emotions. And then Philip's identity gets stolen. My husband's identity gets stolen. So then they hack in through his email account and get to our bank account and stole it. So stole our savings account. And because of how it was done, the bank wasn't liable. And so the FBI got involved in all that. And then Philip gets diagnosed with cancer. I mean, this is all within, it was like 1 month, it was just all within like months of each other. And then he gets diagnosed with cancer, and it was on his head, and so the treatment was brutal. And, many people know the treatment of cancer is just almost worse than the disease, right? And so brutal for him. And so he just had no immune system. So then he started catching everything that you could possibly catch. And then one of the things was this nerve disorder like shingles, which ended up being the worst case I'd ever seen. And he couldn't really function for 5 or 6 months. Then my daughter made a really horrible, painful decision. And so I'm trying to lead a church, right? I'm trying to still mourn the loss of my dad and process this financial loss, and trying to be a wife, and so I'm trying to do all of this, and I was pretty much not getting an A+ in all of them, and I needed some grace, from the people in my world, many of them who, when I first met them, they've been a hot mess, and then God's grace brought healing, so now I needed some of that grace back, but I didn't get it, right? I did not get it, and then one of my dearest friends just betrayed me, like an absolute stab in the back, and so I was so angry and hurt, and I found myself sitting on the couch in our living room, and I'm such an extrovert, as you know. I mean, if you come near me, I'm touching you. I'm very people-y, I love people, all that. But in this season, I didn't want to talk to people. I just wanted to watch one more thing. I just was fully disconnected. I didn't even have like a root of bitterness happening. I had a tree. It was like I was bitter, I was cynical about people, I was just like cynical. And my husband came into the kitchen one day, and I was just sitting again on the couch, and he comes in and he brings this jar and he puts it in our kitchen. And he said, every day, he said, we're gonna write something that we're grateful for, and we're gonna put it in this jar. And I said, you go ahead on. And so, and then he got the colorful kind of post-it notes, thinking that would make it more fun for his very extrovert wife. And I just was so angry. And I was looking at that ridiculous jar. And I knew he was gonna look. So I remember walking down the next morning, and I'm looking at that jar, and I'm angry, and I'm staring at it, and I have nothing. There's nothing. Every time I tried to think, I just kept getting angry. And I'm looking at it, I'm staring at it, and eventually I go, okay, you gotta come up with something. So I peel off the purple one, and I write down in there, coffee. And I put coffee in that jar. Anybody else grateful for coffee?
Still grateful for coffee.
Okay, but I feel like for 4 days, I walked down there, coffee. For 4 days, it was coffee. And then I looked out the window and said, sunshine, as if that's unusual where we were living, so sunshine. And then eventually it became my home and my health. It eventually became other things, but you know what? There wasn't one moment that I felt it. There wasn't one moment when I felt gratitude. It was a decision. So every day I walked to that jar and I wrote something down to be grateful for. And that broke something in me. I don't know if maybe it was after 2 or 3 weeks, all of a sudden it broke that the tree of bitterness kind of just started dissolving, the angry face, the complaining face. There's this man named Dr. Dale Robbins, and I remember reading something that he wrote. He said, I used to think people complain because they have problems. He says, but I come to realize they have problems because they complain. And so I realized that complaining doesn't change anything. It just amplifies the discord and discontent that we have, right? And then in this time I was reading through the Psalms, as you do, right? In these hard seasons, Psalm 77, the author of Psalm 77 wrote, I complained and
Yeah.
my spirit was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So then I was, okay, Holly,
Yeah.
maybe the reason that you're feeling so overwhelmed is because you're spending most of your life complaining.
Yeah.
The words that are coming out are complaining about the people, about the situation, about the sick. You're spending most of your time complaining instead of, as we talked about yesterday, in all circumstances give thanks.
Yeah.
Right? He's not saying to thank God for the circumstance,
Right.
Yeah.
because the circumstance is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These were terrible circumstances.
Yeah.
He's saying in them. So I feel like that discipline of just finding something
Yes.
and being grateful for it and putting it in that jar, which we still have. And in fact, Philip started another one. So it's years later, it is a habit for us
Yes.
I love that.
to find
I'm gonna
something
start that.
to be grateful for. And it's funny, it's like this, now we got the big one. So, and it's all these colorful little Post-its. And I mean, some people might do a journal. I'm not a journaler. So, but something, I just feel like, what's something that we can do to snap that? And so that worked for me.
I loved Holly's story about the gratitude jar. I loved it because she was very honest about it. You know, it wasn't like, oh, I just thought one day, wouldn't it be lovely to have a gratitude jar and I could just be grateful all the time. No, I mean, her husband Philip, who's a darling man, he started it, and Holly was in a really, really dark place where so many things had gone wrong, and she just didn't want to do it. But there's something about dragging your will in line with God's will that shifts things inside you. You know, in Romans chapter 12, it talks about you and I being a living sacrifice. The trouble with that is sometimes we can crawl back off the altar when it gets too hot. What Holly chose to do was to stay on the altar, no matter how uncomfortable, and to write out. And the first thing she wrote out was coffee, and that's a big amen from me right there. But it's something that I'm going to start at home. I'm going to get my own gratitude jar for my husband and I.